someone tried to steal a painting by Vincent van Gogh.
Tried. Was unsuccessful?
There's video of footage of a guy using a sledgehammer. Hello, everyone, and welcome to episode 5 of Is This Thing On podcast with myself, Michael Jansen, and my good friend, Alysia Knowles. Today is going to be an interesting one because we don't have a specific piece of news that we want to discuss per se. So what we're going to be doing is I picked out a couple of headlines that I thought were quite interesting, non-corona related, because it's obviously quite saturated.
That's all the news that we were getting was just corona. We want to talk about something a little bit different, even though this is quarantine diaries, but switching it up for you guys.
So I'm actually, let me just jump straight in. I've got them here in front of me. Interesting. Amazon revealed that, if this damn page will load, Amazon revealed that they were behind a mystery $310,000 donation to bookshops. I think this is super interesting because obviously everyone looks at Amazon as this Leviathan,
the killer of bookstops.
Yeah. So I'm just going to read you the first line. Amazon has been revealed to be behind a mystery $310,000 donation to a charity that supports independent booksellers in the UK and Ireland. The company made the donation after booksellers appealed for funds to help the industry through the coronavirus crisis.
That's nice. Hey, Amazon, Jeff Bezos, get it?
Do you think
that's cool.
Do you think that would be sanctioned by Jeff himself?
I would assume that maybe he was slipped a piece of paper and was like, hey, just sign this document, and he was just like,
yeah.
You know what I mean? I don't think there was a conversation that they were like, man, you know what we should do? Should donate. And he's like, yes, psyched on it. I don't think that's how it went down, but definitely think he probably had to sign a paper.
Oh, that's really funny.
Or not.
That's really funny.
Okay, next headline.
The next piece of news that I want to talk about is 15 years ago yesterday, April 23rd, 15 years ago, the first ever YouTube video was uploaded.
Who was it? Who was the first person to upload a video to YouTube? Was it YouTube themselves?
It was YouTube co-founder Jawed Karim posted an 18-second video called "Me at the Zoo." It's got 90 million views.
90. I want to watch it.
It's really cool.
All right, so here we are. One of the elephants. Cool thing about these guys is that they have really.
Oh my gosh, that's the
really
first YouTube video ever. I'm obsessed with that. That's the best piece of news.
Yep.
And that's pretty much all there is to say.
That was fascinating. The next piece of news I'm going to talk about very quickly is that someone tried to steal a painting by Vincent van Gogh.
Tried. Was unsuccessful?
There's video of footage of a guy using a sledgehammer to break into a museum, and he walked off with the painting.
So he got it successfully, whether or not he managed to keep it.
It's still missing. It's still missing.
Oh my God, so he did get it.
Yeah, a guy used a sledgehammer, broke into a museum, stole a painting, and just bug it off.
That is the most thug way to do it ever. Just not sneaky, not crafty, just you know what? I think I'm going to get me a painting today.
They literally have him on video.
Okay, so what was going through that guy's brain? He just woke up in the morning, had a bowl of cereal, and was like, you know what? I really like that painting.
You know, I think it is. I think it was a case of it was on. I want to see when exactly this happened, so that I'm not running my mouth too much. The date was 30th of March ish. Yeah.
Seems like
I think that he just well, apparently it worked. It's the perfect day to steal a painting. So he's so I think all that happened. Did you just poetry cat? Oh, great, of course. I didn't have my Zoom screen on, and I didn't see you. All I heard was,
Okay, that's great. Okay, so anyway, so 30th of March.
Yeah, and this guy, yeah, so he, the video footage shows this guy walking up to the glass door. He bashes it down with his sledgehammer. And he walks on in, takes his painting, and buggers off.
Yes. Okay, I shouldn't. Stealing is wrong.
Don't.
But
of course, don't. But
the
if you're going
fact
to,
that he got away with it.
Yeah.
In the most inelegant way possible, right? Like there was no like movie like scene for this. It wasn't like, oh, we're gonna pretend to be and the security guards and the security cameras. He just like went in his garage, grabbed his sledgehammer, and just went to town, got himself a painting. Like I only can imagine that this guy is doing right now is like sitting at home with like a nice glass of whiskey, like in probably like a shack, right? Like somewhere that nobody's really looking. And he's got his painting, like not even hanging up, just like leaned against the wall. And he's just sitting there, just like happy as can be, like about his accomplishments. Like, I love this guy. I love him so much.
I like, you asked what's going through his head. Like I could see this happening, so that him and whoever his co-conspirators were, if he had any, were at home, and they've got, you can imagine what the scene would be. He's got everything up on the walls. He's got the red string going from one thing to the other. Lockdown gets announced.
I'm so getting it.
And he's literally like, he's kind of like, this is perfect. This is my time. You know, and then there's that moment in the film where everything slows down and he looks into the corner of the room and there's a sledgehammer there. Can
we make this short film, please? Like,
yeah, I'm down.
Oh my God, animators! If you want to work on a project that's like super not paid for because low budget, what's up? Like, let's make this. or just make it yourself and just link us so that we can like critique the work or like do like a react video or whatever it is. Somebody make this video, please. I'm obsessed. So that being said, let's move on to content. What is your favorite piece of content right now?
And I'm so glad that we did an episode on being nerds and geeky yesterday. But actually, I'm taking an online course. It's called, it's run by Harvard. And it is a course on entrepreneurship in emerging markets.
Okay.
I grew up in East Africa, North Africa, Middle East, moving around, and a lot of which were developing countries, Sudan, Yemen, for example. Egypt, a bit more established, but often behaves like an emerging market. And so I found this super, super interesting. And the professor talks about this concept of institutional voids, which kind of pertains to the like a wider. It's Corona time. This wider sort of business economic infrastructure, right? So in developed markets, so like let's say New York, for example, you're a buyer of a certain product. He always uses the example of healthcare, which I think is a great example. So the example he gives is himself based in Boston. He's a patient looking for a doctor. There are plenty of intermediaries, infrastructure points, like both public and private, that are there to support him as a buyer to reach the seller, which is the doctor in this case.
Right.
Now, when you look in some developing markets, that infrastructure it's just not there. It's just non-existent. And there's loads and loads and loads of types of these institutional voids. Everything from whether or not there's an intermediary to tell me as the patient that a doctor is sort of good to deal with, whether that's their degree or their qualifications are real, whether or not the medicine that they're using is not counterfeit, whether or not the facility is well cleaned, like the staff are well trained, whatever the case is, like all of these certification things. So there's that, which is an institutional void. There's none of that, for example, or there's no way for one person to find the other effectively, for one person from a really small village to be able to go to a larger town, maybe a couple of hours away, to find a doctor. They have no way of knowing, because certain sort of infrastructure points in that marketplace just don't exist.
Right.
Which I find fascinating, because these are markets that I've grown up in, and I've seen this happen firsthand. And some of the most incredible entrepreneurial ventures in Africa, Asia, South America are filling these holes with incredibly simple products, very, very simple services. But the fact that they don't exist at all, and you have every proven model of every existing established mature market, you have every example of it working correctly. And so it's literally just a case of, is someone going to go and make an effort? Is someone going to go make the time and effort to put that product in place, knowing how much time and effort is required for buyer to reach seller? So you put that intermediary in place. Whatever the cost is, obviously it's minimal, but there are ways of, and especially from a social enterprise perspective, there are ways for that to be, you can make it both a for-profit enterprise and make it a social venture that is impacting society as a whole in that market. So doing this online course, I find fascinating. I think it's really, really been very, very interesting. From a content perspective, very, very simple. It's literally just sharing knowledge, obviously on a grand scale, because this is Harvard, and like, these are incredibly intelligent people. And on a grand scale, they're sharing it with the world. But I just find it interesting that obviously now is the time that I'm sitting down, putting time aside to do this.
Right.
And whether you are a buyer or seller, as in like whether you are someone who wants to learn, or you are someone who has information that they want to give out, this is the time. Like, this is the time people want to buy. Like, on the discussion threads in this course, there's people from all over the world. And like, obviously it's the internet, of course, it's people from all over the world, but it's like, it's Philippines, Nigeria, India, the US, Canada, Australia, Sao Paulo, like it's all over, Brazil, it's all over. Which I find fascinating. I think it's been a really interesting.
What inspired you to like sign up for this course specifically?
Like I mentioned before, there are all these business pages that I follow, and I think one of them was saying something about Harvard offering free courses. So I was like, I mean, got the time, may as well. And I looked at the courses that they had. They've got they got loads of courses. Literally, if you go to, it's something like Harvard online free courses, and it'll take you to a link. It shows you all the free courses that they've got, paid courses as well, obviously, like incredibly like in-depth stuff. But they've got everything from like biology, the history of religion, like archaeology. They've got coding, like CSS. Like, they've got like a whole load of really interesting stuff. And so the three that I picked were, or the two, I can't remember the third, but the one was entrepreneurship in emerging markets, and then the other one I think was the language of architecture, or imagination that's sort of manifested in the language of architecture. So like how we use architecture imaginatively. When you look at people, like especially like in Dubai, oh my God, you've seen that beautiful new building in Business Bay. I think was it Zaha Hadid was the architect. Just stunning, just beautiful buildings. So that architecture I find fascinating as well.
Architecture, did not know that. Learning new information today.
It is what it is. Tell me, okay, so that's my piece of content that I like.
How long are you through it? Like how far?
Oh, I'm only a couple of days into it. It's a 6-week course, but obviously it's like self-paced, so you do it whenever you want. They recommend like 3 to 5 hours a day, but it's funny. I mean, it's hard work. Like there's count. Like I've already written 3 essays, I think, and I've only been doing it for a couple of days. Yeah, and I hate essays, but these have been quite fun. I had to write a whole thing about institutional void, like how to fill institutional voids in Sudan, where I grew up. Shout out Sudan. And one of them I think was I think I wrote about the agriculture sector or something. Some nerdy stuff.
I like it. I dig it. That's interesting. I think you actually sent me that link. We'll link down to the bio if you guys want to check out some of the courses there. You have time too, so don't be lazy. At least look at it.
Just click on the link.
At least click on it. Like, just see what's out there. That's funny though, because Harvard's been in the news in the U.S. because, not to go back to our news section, because there was a bunch of money given out.
Oh, I heard about this. Yes.
And Trump mentioned them by name,
of course, he did,
as far as taking this money. And so then, of course, like Yale, Harvard, and Stanford all like refused to take the money because they were given the money. They were allotted the money because it's based off of a percentage of the school that's on financial aid. And even though these are schools that are very like well off and everything like that, there's still people there who can't afford the schools who might need help. You know what I mean? Like at the end of the day, there's not everybody there is.
Yeah, of course. They've still got scholarships to pay. They've still got there's a bunch of stuff. Yeah.
So it's based off that, and then it just that disappointed me though because it's the school system, and even if Harvard is like this Ivy League school that has all this money like on, and they're good, the students may not be. You know what I mean? Like the students themselves do you know what always rich.
How that sort of two things to clarify. So are you saying that they didn't take it?
They didn't take it.
They refused it? Okay. Well, as you say, I mean, it's good that they were offered it, but what was the general reaction? Was it that people were upset that they'd been given it, that they'd been offered it in the first place?
So the actual upset wasn't even the schools, it was the businesses. So places like, what is it called? Chris Ruth's, because they were given $20 million,
Jesus.
Because they were only supposed to get 10, but because they have two different companies, one is their like hospitality sector, and then one is the actual restaurants themselves. They were able to like finagle the system so that they got $20 million for an enterprise that's worth over, I think what their net worth was over 200 million or something crazy. Like I don't remember the exact number, but they themselves are worth so much that to then try to get this like more money, and then the system depletes. And then that money that was allotted for it was the PPP, the Paycheck Protection Plan, Paycheck Protection Project, something like that. Basically what it's supposed to be for is to pay the employees, which isn't the same thing that Harvard was given. But so in an interview with Trump, one of the people says, are you going to make these companies that have taken this money? And it wasn't just Ruth Chris, it was a bunch of companies that took millions of dollars that realistically should have gone to small businesses who really can't afford to pay their employees, and that makes up 50% of the US market is small businesses. So anyways, he was asked, are you going to make them give it back? And then the first thing out of his mouth was, yeah, we're going to make Harvard give back the money. And that wasn't the conversation, you know what I mean? And then it put a target on Harvard's back because everybody's like, why is Harvard? And you know, people, they're just like,
oh, they jump on it.
It's so quick. Just jump on the bandwagon. So then Stanford released that they're not going to take the money. And then Harvard said that they're not going to take the money. And I think Yale, there has to be more schools at this point. But at the point of like me hearing this news, it was the 3 schools that had refused to take the money. Anyways, the whole point of this is take Harvard classes. But no, like places like Harvard and stuff like that are doing well, but the school system in general, in the U.S. specifically, isn't doing great as far as making sure that the people who are low income.
The school system in the U.S. hasn't been doing great for years. Like that's not a new thing either.
Yeah, but right now you have students who now have all this student debt and student loans and still have to pay rent and now don't have their part-time or full-time jobs, like and the school is supposed to be giving them access to money. But it was something this was yesterday that I heard this, so whatever has happened since then. What's the date today? The 23rd. I don't know what's happened since then, but only 0.1% of the money that had been given to the schools had actually made its way to the students.
Sorry,
in total.
How many?
0.1%.
Wow.
had actually made it to the students. It's all okay. So have you seen Collateral Beauty?
Mm-mm.
Okay, Collateral Beauty is a movie with Will Smith, and without spoilers, there's a line where he goes to have lunch with this woman who lost a daughter, and he lost a daughter, and she's like, when my daughter passed away in the hospital, an older woman came and sat next to me and was like, don't forget to look at the collateral beauty. And talking about that after you lose like a child, that there's so many beautiful things that happen. Like, even though it's the worst situation that you can possibly imagine, the people that show you love and the things that happen in direct result and the way that you look at the world. So the old woman was like, don't forget to look at the collateral beauty. So I've been trying to do that during Corona, is find the people who are helping and look at the good stuff and the happy stuff and the positive stuff, and kind of spin this into being, like I said in the last episode, something better for us. At the end of the day, though, there's still stories like this that make me want to punch things because that's awful.
Yeah.
Like, we're taught, especially in I guess everybody, but especially in the US, we're taught that the only way that you're going to be successful is if you get a degree and you go to college and you follow this manual of how you're supposed to have this life. And then at the end of the day, when everything is going bust, corporations are looking out for themselves. They're not looking out for like anybody in a more rough position. It's all about the bottom line. And that's the part that I'm just like, oh, you deserve it. You all deserve it.
my thing is that's twofold. So that's twofold, but I've also got a different way to say it. Different thing to say. One is, do you I'll come back to the other bit. Do you actually believe that is still the narrative, though? That's because I feel like that's dying very quickly. The whole, you have to go to university, you have to da-da-da-da. I feel like that's dying.
I think it's dying, but I don't think it will. Slower than I think that we think. So our direct circle, who I'm pretty close with, either went to college because their families made them and it wasn't their personal choice and do nothing that has to do with their degree, or haven't ever went to college. So I feel like the direct circle and that entrepreneurial artist kind of like mindset, right? You're not gonna see it as much. But I think for the average person, that's still very much the mindset. Do I think it's dying? Yeah, of course. I feel like we're all a lot more educated, and not only that, but if you do want to go to school for something specialized, right? Like, you have to go to school to be a doctor. That's not that's not like up for debate. You know what I mean? So if you do want to go to school for something specialized, like, I think we're seeing a lot more people who are willing to go back to school, who like did this thing for a while, whatever that was, and they realize that they've run its course and they want to try something else, and they're going back to school for that. And that I can get behind, because I think we've also been told that you pick a career and you do that for until you retire, and then you die. You know, like you don't get to experience much more than that. So I think those are the two things, is that it's either going to die because it's not necessarily the right path for everybody. And I think you'll see people getting requalified to. That's
an interesting point.
To do different things that they want to do.
The other super quick thing that I wanted to say, and I realize we're banging on about this again for a long time, but you mentioned the large corporation stories about the bottom line. Twofold. It doesn't matter if you have a degree, then your degree isn't going to save you. That company's made decisions, and they were not thinking about you as one human being. I am calling it people out. I'm not going to hide behind a thing, but I am calling people out. There are companies that are not thinking about the human beings in their organization. Of course, they're thinking about their bottom line. Okay, cool. I mean, priorities. I can certainly understand from their standpoint that, you know, right. They've still got to, like, the company's doors still have to stay open so that there is a company after coronavirus. But
100%,
which is, you know, fair enough. And I don't want to be in that position because it's not an easy one to be in. But yeah, also you have to know, like, that there are people that rep so hard for their companies, and they're like, so like, oh, I did my degree so I could work for this company. I live and die for this company. People put in blood, sweat, and tears, and the same company is going to turn around and you ain't going to have a job.
Well, that's
Not
the
all,
thing is like,
but-
I feel like companies that can afford it should be doing the right thing, because they're going to
But that's
talk
half the
about
problem.
how
Those are the ones that aren't.
exactly. And that's for me the so what was it? I think it was Switzerland. Don't quote me on the country. I think I'm like 60% sure it's Switzerland, but I could be wrong. Was giving out
country
basically
in Europe.
was giving out payouts for similar to the paycheck plan in the US, but the rule was they were not allowed to fire a single employee. And we do not have those same guidelines in the US. So I feel like in order to make this actually work the way that theoretically it should work, just based off people being not is those lines need to be put in place. Is if you're going to take this money, if you're going to apply for this money, you have to meet this, that, and the third requirement.
Very seldom does the US take a hard line federal approach to certain things. Like they allow it to be at a state level. And I think
but right now
this you can't.
But even then, so that being said, that's a double-edged sword right now, because there needs to be federal action taken, but our commander-in-chief is Trump. So like, we need the states to have power because he's not it.
Yeah.
Trevor Noah did a piece and he was like, some of the states are banding together. Like, that's super cool. That's what we need right now. We need like people to like form alliances. You know what would even be better is if all 50 states came together. It could be like the states of togetherness. Get it? Instead of the United States.
I got it.
I was dead. And he's all scruffy in his house because he's quarantined.
He's so funny.
And so this moment for me, I was like, yes, girl.
There are, so I'm not the loudest, proudest South African. I'm not like the most patriotic person.
Yeah.
But there's people like Trevor make me proud of. There are a bunch of people that come out of South Africa that I'm very, very proud to have that green and gold. That's my guy. I'm a huge fan. I used to watch his comedy specials. He had DVDs when I was in high school, in boarding school. And we used to watch his DVDs. He's a G.
So I watched his stand-up the first time. Go ahead.
No. Carry on.
I watched his stand-up for the first time in 2015. It was the year before I came to Dubai. So I think 2015 or 2014. And I was hyped. I was so hyped because this is before he was on The Daily Show. This is before he was on anything. This is before he was like...
Where was he? Did you see, like as in, where was that filmed? Do you know?
He was in America.
Okay.
Because he kept making American jokes about like coming to America and about being like
he's considered Mexican. Yeah.
I was like, I love you. Anyways, I made everybody in my direct circle watch it. And one of my friends, her name is Lainey. Lainey, you'll never watch this, but if you do, hey, what's up, girl? I was like, you need to watch it. You need to watch it. You need to watch it. She's like, I'll get around to it. And I'm like, right, like super disappointed in my friend. And then he gets hired to do The Daily Show. And then she's like, oh my God. I was like, you haven't watched his stand-up. You get no words. You get no until you watch the stand-up. You can't like him now.
You can't be a fan.
I'm such a judgmental fan. It's such a problem.
You're so indie that you're even indie with like comedians. It's not even about bands that people haven't heard that they actually have. Like it's you're so indie. Okay, cool. Moving swiftly along. Okay, cool.
So this is my thought here. We stop here, end this episode, and then we do just an episode on self-development, self-improvement, self-something. What do you think?
Fine. Fine. You still haven't got this. I don't care.
I'm gonna use just that as a micro.
I will do anything.
I don't care
because we don't know. Just make more. I just want to make more content. Like I don't get fine. Make it 2 episodes. I'm happy.
Okay, so we'll do this as part 1. We're going to end the episode here because we've been chit-chatting for 40 minutes and we're trying not to give you guys another hour-long episode. So this will come out on Monday, and then part 2 will come out tomorrow, which is Tuesday, and that will be more on the line of self-development and self-improvement. Do you wanna outro us there, Mr. Michael?
And I really hope that you enjoyed it. If you did, please, if you're watching on YouTube, hit subscribe, hit the notifications bell, drop us a thumbs up, leave us a comment, let us know what you thought. If you enjoyed the episode, if there's anything that you would like to see in future episodes. If you are listening to this on any of the audio platforms, of course, please rate, review, leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you. And until the next episode, thank you very much, and we will speak to you soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, guys.
Headlines today. Ooh. Everything.
Corona. Okay, I think we can just talk because this is going to be a quick episode anyways. It's going to be our first episode in Ramadan. We can just talk about...
this is super interesting. A Van Gogh
okay, what is it?
painting got stolen.
Really?
Yeah.
That is interesting.